Right now, I want to welcome to the program Congressman Paul Gosar from Arizona. Congressman, thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks for having me on, Cam.
My pleasure. Earlier this week, we saw Secretary of State John Kerry sign the UN Arms Trade Treaty. Now, this is an issue that I know that you're concerned about. You've been dealing with Operation Fast and Furious and the ATF allowing guns from the United States to fall into the hands of Mexican drug cartels. I'm actually curious, Representative, if the UN Arms Trade Treaty had been in effect, would the Obama administration have been able to do something like Fast and Furious without violating the terms of that treaty?
Absolutely not. But I take that back. With this administration, they can get away with anything.
Right. Well, yeah, because that's the thing. We keep hearing. I'll be honest with you. I've got kind of whiplash from trying to listen to the president talk about the United Nations. A few weeks ago, the United Nations was an ineffective body that could not guarantee that Syria had given up or had safeguarded its chemical weapons. We couldn't rely on the United Nations to ensure that was going to happen. We had to go it alone. Then Secretary of State signs the UN Arms Trade Treaty, and all of a sudden the United Nations is the most effective body in the world to guard and protect against small arms, against the guns that you and I own, Congressman.
Absolutely, and if you wait, he'll do the circle all over again for you. This is the guy that right now is saying that he won't negotiate with Congress over spending limits and debt ceiling and CRs when he's negotiating with Putin, Syria, and get this, Iran. This is the same guy that has made the attempt to destroy our Second Amendment rights, Cam. When you look at earlier this year, we saw the reversal of fortunes on our import aspects taken away from the State Department and put under the jurisdiction of the DOJ. That would severely start to look at some of the primer issues, powder issues that come up from overseas, and you add this into effect. This president is after what he deems as the law, and he's got Eric Holder destroying the rule of law right now in our country.
So when it comes to this treaty, as you say, every day it seems like there's something else here. Over on the Senate, that's where they have to ratify this treaty. It doesn't look like they have the votes. Is there anything that the House could do if the administration decided, hey, we're not going to wait for ratification. We're going to try to implement as much of this treaty as we can without the Senate ratifying this document?
No, I don't think that there would be something that the House could do. The Constitution isn't here for us to destroy it, but what we can do as interested participants in the legislative branch, we can make sure that issue is brought up immediately to take it out of the limelight, making sure that they know that it's not going to pass, not just the threat of it. Let's actually get it done, and that's why I think that the strong course after these fiscal issues, that this should be something that is brought up within the Senate to make sure that it goes down, and that we hold those that try to ratify it accountable in the next election cycle.
So would you, given that there's not the votes, and I doubt we'll actually see a formal vote occur, but are you saying you'd kind of like to see where things stand right now? You would like to see people take an up or down vote in the Senate? Do you support this arms trade treaty so we could get those votes on the record?
I don't support the arms treaty, but I want to make sure that we get everybody to understand that this is about our Second Amendment, and I want senators on the record. I want them on the record so that we can understand who is fighting for our constitutional rights to bear arms and who's against it. I want to make it perfectly clear.
Talking with Congressman Paul Gosar from Arizona and Congressman, what do you think needs to be done to help educate the American people on this arms trade treaty? I mean, I got to be honest with you. I'm sure there are a lot of Americans who may not know or care much about this treaty, but what do we do to help them understand the importance of what's at stake here?
Well, I think what we do is this is now an exercise of reinstituting the discussion about our Constitution, that we never subjugate our Constitution to anything worldwide, and that we also show that there has been a total violation in regards with this administration to that Second Amendment right. They have talked out of both sides of their mouth. They have defied the rule of law, and we have to make sure that we don't forget to bring up Fast and Furious, Benghazi, James Rosen, IRS, because people are getting so numbed and they're scared, Cam, they're absolutely scared to raise their voice because they know Uncle Sam is listening to them, looking at them, and following their every move. And they what they want is they want somebody that comes to the table with a clear delineated pathway. And so part of that is teaching them. In order to protect yourself, you've got to believe in the Second Amendment. In order to have your constitutional rights, the most important constitutional right is probably the Second Amendment. It allows you to bear and carry arms. And it's not just carrying and bearing arms. It's to the equal to hold an egregious government accountable. That's key. That is absolutely key.
Congressman, right now we saw the president earlier today address and direct his ire at Republicans in Congress. Basically said, knock it off when it comes to the funding, when it comes to the fight over Obamacare. When you're, and I understand we have political opposition. I understand we have two diametrically opposed worldviews here, but to hear one side tell the other, just stop. Just stop being a Republican, stop being a conservative, stop being yourself, Congressman. It seems like that's not much of a debate or an argument at all.
It isn't, but when you start looking at the facts, Cam, it's laughable if it wasn't the United States of America. Here you have a president talking about that raising the debt ceiling isn't going deeper in debt, and that we don't have a debt problem. I mean, these are all words out of this president's mouth. Obviously, this president doesn't understand business. He's never signed the front end or back end of a check, and that's the part that's laughable. Is that the other side constantly looks at this president through gleaming glasses without the scrutiny of making sure that there are facts being presented. I mean, we're even presenting, listen to this, under this administration, an educational process where 2 plus 2 doesn't have to equal 4, that you can be right when it answers 3, 30, 50, where any other answer will be acceptable.
Well, listen, Congressman, appreciate you coming on the program, sir. Have a great weekend, and I know we'll be talking again very soon. Thanks for what you're doing.
Folks, Cam, thanks for all that you do. Let's make sure that I warn people that this was coming back around. Harry Reid has not been a friend of the NRA because of his vote, because he wanted to have this open. And I think what we need to do is we need more than ever before to keep accountability from our elected officials. It starts with the House and it starts with the Senate. We need to make them start taking votes.
Congressman Paul Gosar joining us here on NRA News, Cam and Company, live on Sportsman Channel.